Hey guys, last time we watched that China tried to attack USA and it was a very failed experience for them. But now we see there is another time that China tried to challenge US helicopter and I don't think so that will also end very well for them. So let's watch this
video.
At 2:30 p.m. local over the South China Sea, an American helicopter was doing something that made Beijing very nervous. To counter this, they scrambled their best attack helicopter to stop it. But the Chinese pilot didn't know he was about to make a career-ending mistake.
Career
For the
ending?
next 72 minutes, while trying to intimidate the most powerful navy on Earth, this pilot would accidentally teach the Americans something Beijing never wanted them to know. The Chinese Z-10 pilot had been scrambled from Xiamen 28 minutes earlier with orders that basically amounted to go scare off the Americans. The US Navy MH-60 Romeo, think of it as basically the Swiss Army knife of military helicopters, was busy tracking a Chinese type O-39 diesel submarine.
It was tracking the submarine.
Sub had been submerged for 48 hours and was desperately trying to recharge its batteries. Diesel subs are like holding your breath underwater. Eventually, you have to come up for air. And when you do, America is watching. Foreign military aircraft, you are approaching Chinese territorial waters. Alter your course immediately. The transmission crackled over the radio as the Z-10 pilot banked hard across the Romeo's nose at 500 meters.
So
Just
close.
one problem. They were 50 nautical miles away from any Chinese territory in international airspace, where America had every legal right to be. The Romeo's three-person crew, 2 pilots and 1 sensor operator, didn't even flinch because they knew something Beijing didn't. For the next 72 minutes, while trying to intimidate the US Navy, China was about to do something incredibly stupid.
What?
See, the Romeo wasn't just sightseeing. Those bumps and bulges on its fuselage, those are AN/ALQ-210 electronic support measures pods. Think of them as digital vacuum cleaners, soaking up every electronic emission from that Z-10. Radar frequency.
That's how I think so. Like I was thinking, like how was the helicopter able to track the submarine? Like I know it was coming out again and again, but still, when it was inside, how was it able to track? So it had all those.
Frequencies, communication protocols, engine harmonics, everything was being cataloged, while the Chinese pilot thought he was being intimidating. The Z-10 you see flying around here is what happens when you order an Apache helicopter from Wish. Built with leftover Russian design assistance from the 1990s. When Russia needed cash and China needed helicopters, sure, it looks intimidating with its angular design. But so does a Toyota Camry with a body kit. Beijing's pilot fired 2 flares around the Romeo. This wasn't an attack, it was theater. The aviation equivalent of a chihuahua barking at a pit bull. The American crew's response,
small dog.
They pointed their dipping sonar directly at the submarine below. The message was crystal clear. We still see your friend down there. The submarine, realizing it was still being tracked despite the aerial interference, crash dived in a panic. It made so much noise, cavitation from the emergency dive, hull popping from pressure changes, that sensors across the entire carrier strike group heard it. In submarine warfare, noise equals destruction.
China is
the
panicking.
Chinese pilot had just punched his own submarine's ticket while trying to protect it, if this had been a real war. But Beijing's pilot was about to discover something worse. Much worse.
What?
At 2:48 p.m., after 18 minutes of failed intimidation, the Chinese pilot finally thought he'd achieved something. His fire control radar got a lock on the Romeo.
Oh no!
The growling tone in his headset meant he could finally simulate an engagement. That
Don't do that.
lasted exactly 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
That's how long it took for Americans to stop laughing and flip
It's
the
like
switch.
he did the log and no.
What happened
I didn't want to
next
do that.
was the electronic warfare
Now, how we
equivalent
video
of
call
bringing
someone?
a super
Yeah.
soaker to fight Navy SEALs. A nearby EA-18 Growler started blasting the Z-10 with electromagnetic energy using its ALQ-99 jamming pods. Suddenly, the Chinese pilot's radar looked like a TV screen with no signal. His lock didn't just disappear. The American helicopter appeared to split into
Like
12
everywhere.
different contacts.
Yeah.
Some were flying backwards, others were apparently teleporting.
Like he was drunk.
One showed up inside his own cockpit.
Oh my god.
This is what happens when 1990s Russian hand-me-down technology meets modern American electronic warfare.
Can't match.
The
No match.
ALQ-99 doesn't just jam radars, it makes them hallucinate. It's frequency agile, hopping across the electromagnetic spectrum faster than the Chinese radar can follow. While Beijing's pilot was looking on one frequency, the jamming had already moved to 50 others.
Oh.
But it got worse. What appeared on his threat display next gave him goosebumps.
What?
The U.S. carrier strike group had just lit him up with their spy radars. That's like having the Eye of Sauron suddenly notice you exist.
Oh my god.
FA-18 Super Hornets were already launching from the carrier deck, not to engage, but to remind Beijing that this Romeo wasn't alone. It had the entire
there is
U.S.
also-
Pacific Fleet behind it.
Yeah.
This
The
air-
Chinese pilot
craft
tried
group.
everything, switching frequencies, increasing power, even turning his radar off and on again. Nothing worked. The Romeo's electronic
Just get
warfare
out.
suite operates across multiple bands simultaneously, creating what specialists call the full spectrum dominance experience, or what Chinese pilots call, oh no. Meanwhile,
Oh, no.
the American crew remained so
Yeah.
calm, they were probably discussing lunch plans. They knew in exactly 4 minutes, the situation would get even
Love the
more
way he roasts
embarrassing
them.
for China.
Just in
The
4
Romeo's
minutes.
pilot decided to send another message, a slight bank to point the dipping sonar at the submarine below. The submarine, still being tracked despite all the aerial interference, was now making desperate evasion turns.
Oh.
Each turn created more noise. More noise meant better tracking. The
were
Chinese
trying to do
pilot
this.
wasn't helping one bit. The U.S. aircraft commander finally transmitted with the kind of professionalism that only comes from absolute superiority. Chinese military aircraft. This is the United States Navy aircraft,
Oh.
operating in international airspace in accordance with international law. We will maintain course and altitude. Translation.
Get
Nice
out.
try, kid.
Get out.
What Beijing
Kid.
didn't realize was that every second was intelligence gold. The amount of data being collected was staggering. Communication protocols showing their encryption was from 2003.
Oh.
Radar frequencies revealing they hadn't updated since
So
buying the
old.
Russian design. Even the harmonics of the
Like
rotor blades,
outdated.
useful for identifying Z-10s from 50 miles away just by sound. But the Chinese pilot wasn't done embarrassing himself.
Oh, no.
He was about to learn why that was exactly the wrong move.
What did he
the
do?
Z-10 had just entered what Americans call the find out stage. Frustrated by his complete electronic failure, Beijing's pilot closed to 500 meters.
Oh, no.
Thinking proximity would help.
Very
Stupid.
At this
close.
distance, he could see the American door gunner manning the GAU-21
Oh,
50
he's
caliber
pointing
machine
at
gun.
him.
Not pointing at him,
Not
yet,
pointing.
but the message was clear.
Yeah.
Now the real mismatch became apparent. The Chinese pilot
Stupid.
initiated thumping, aggressive maneuvers designed to force a defensive response.
Oh,
The
thumping.
Z-10 suddenly began lunging
Whoa,
left
whoa,
and
whoa,
right,
whoa, whoa.
pitching up and down in sharp bursts, like a boxer throwing feints to bait a reaction.
Okay, like this.
Each move tried to shove the Romeo into a bad firing position, but the tight turns tanked its airspeed and pushed the Z-10's airframe to its G limit. The Romeo, built on the Blackhawk's proven airframe, can pull significantly higher G loads while maintaining stable flight.
This
Beijing's
is a
pilot
no
was
match
essentially
thing.
tuckering
Yeah.
himself out while the Americans watched. Meanwhile, the sensor warfare was completely
You
one-sided.
know, you see these kind of things in comedy movies. You know, a small guy doing like, oh, I'll kill you.
Even
I'll
I've
kill you.
seen in the dogs.
And
like
the big
small
guy is
dog-
just like holding him like, okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, the big one is stable.
Yeah.
The Romeo's AN/AAR-47 missile warning system was tracking every aspect of the Z-10's movement. Maximum turn rate, 20 degrees per second. Climb performance, 12 meters per second.
Oh.
This data would later determine exactly how
have
to
all the
program
information.
American missiles to intercept these helicopters. The Z-10 was providing its own defeat instructions.
Oh.
The Romeo's FLIR camera was recording everything in 1080p infrared. Every hotspot was being cataloged. Exhaust ports at 450 degrees Celsius. Transmission housing at 180 degrees.
Oh.
These thermal signatures would tell American engineers exactly where heat-seeking missiles should aim. The Chinese pilot was literally providing a tutorial on
Yeah.
how to destroy his helicopter. And if he thought his
How to
own
destroy.
weapons could tip the balance, he was in for another shock. The Z-10's 23mm cannon has an effective range of maybe 2,500 meters
Okay.
against ground targets.
But they are 500
Against
meter
a
close.
maneuvering
Yeah.
helicopter, lucky to hit anything at 500 meters.
Oh, he
the
can't hit
Romeo's
it.
GAU-21 has an effective range of nearly 2,000 meters with armor-piercing incendiary rounds that would punch through the
Whoa.
Z-10's cabin like tissue paper.
Oh!
Chinese manufacturing standards, it basically was. By now, the Z-10's warning panel looked like a Christmas tree. The control inputs were getting mushy. His helicopter
He's
seemed
gone.
to be on the verge of literally flying
Just
itself
go.
to pieces. The Chinese pilot felt the stick fighting him, but running meant court-martial. He switched the warnings to silent and pushed harder for one last maneuver.
Oh no.
He attempted radar locks 14 times. Each attempt was a gift to American electronic warfare specialists.
Oh my God.
The Romeo systems logged every frequency hop, every pulse pattern, every desperate attempt to burn through jamming. It's like watching someone repeatedly try the wrong password while you write down each attempt.
Yes.
When Beijing's pilot attempted laser designation with his electro-optical system, the Romeo sensors didn't just detect it. They identified the exact model and software version. This meant
Oh!
America now knew how to jam not just this helicopter,
But the whole
every
fleet.
Chinese
Yeah.
vehicle using the same systems.
Oh my God.
One helicopter encounter
What a
just
mistake.
compromised an entire generation of
What a
Chinese
mistake.
weapons. The stress was becoming visible now. The Z-10's engines were running at 105% maximum continuous power, creating an infrared bloom 40% brighter than normal operations. The
Oh.
Romeo's FLIR documented this in exquisite detail. Future American missiles would be programmed to
Yeah.
recognize this exact
No,
thermal
they would know
pattern.
everything
when
about
a
them.
Z-10 pushes hard, it literally lights itself up for targeting. The electronic intelligence collection was even more damaging. Every communication between the pilot and ground control was being intercepted. The
Oh,
frequency
ho, ho,
hopping
ho.
pattern was predictable. American systems could now predict and jam Chinese military communications across the entire theater. As the encounter dragged on, the Z-10's performance degraded visibly. Hydraulic pressure dropping
Just
from
go
overheating,
back.
transmission temperature climbing into the red zone, flight controls becoming sluggish from overtaxed servos. The
Oh.
helicopter was literally defeating itself through overexertion. At 3:42 p.m., the Chinese pilot watched the Romeo's dipping sonar splash into the water again. The
And
submarine
then-
below was still being tracked. After 72 minutes, he hadn't moved the Americans an inch.
Huh.
His thumb hovered over the transmit button
Go
to
back.
report his failure and decided ground control already knew. They were watching the same radar picture he was. The American crew had
What a
accumulated
loss.
72 minutes of intelligence gold.
Decimation.
Electronic warfare systems would know exactly which frequencies to jam. Missiles would know exactly where to aim. Tactical computers would know exactly how to outmaneuver it. This revelation
He gave
makes
away
the
so
message
much
to
data.
China clear.
Yeah.
Stick to making knockoff
Stupid.
iPhones.
Oh.
Bye for now.
With USA, it is very much clear that either they attack you or they collect data from you. And this was a very good way. They were just collecting our whole data and everything that what the Chinese pilot is going to do. They know that they will never ever attack USA. That will be their biggest mistake. And so they know that it will just be a scary thing only that, oh, I'm here, I'm blue, this and that. But the USA is not like, okay, I'm also standing there. USA is collecting data and making sure that the next time they meet, they have more data about them.
And as we have seen that US is kind of more stable. Like I remember I saw one reel in which like the small dog is inside and the big one is outside, and there is this window thing, and the small dog is shouting on the big dog, and when the glass is removed, both of them are quite silent. So it's so like that they just like to do this and that thing, but when the moment they say that they might attack you, they just get scared off.
Actually, so what do you guys think about this video? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share, and
Subscribe.
bye.